And then just to clarify, you expect to be back in this role this upcoming season, and what is your expectation for the future, given that your contract, with your contract going forward, and what it might look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my standpoint, I love the Padres in San Diego. I think obviously proud to be a part of this thing, and proud of the work that's been done over the last 10 years to get us to a spot where we're one of the more successful franchises. I think we understand there's some unfinished business that's left to be done. I look forward to having conversations with John and the group here this off season. But again, we have a lot of work to do. So it's we've got a good team coming back, and I think for myself and our front office, our focus is always on trying to build a championship team year in, year out, something that's sustainable. But again, I enjoy it. I love it. I love San Diego. I enjoy the people here. I feel responsible for for the people that are here, and really enjoy the relationships, and looking forward to this off season, honestly, and the future.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I am Marty Caswell. That is Jake Garegnani of local CBS 8. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. It is December 3rd, and I've been really missing my buddy Jake, who was so kind to join me during the course of the regular season and the postseason, talking some Padres. I think our last conversation came after the Padres were bounced in Chicago in the wild card round. And he asked Manny a pretty important question that, of course, we're going to follow up on the first day of spring training, no doubt. I already know your leadoff question when you walk into Peoria. But Jake, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I had a drama-free Thanksgiving week. No huge Padres news breaking, which it seems hard to get through a week anymore these days without some sort of huge news coming in. So it was a nice back home in Colorado for the holidays, drama-free week. So I'm doing quite well, Marty. How about yourself?
I'm recovering. Number one, I didn't realize that all schools were off from school for the entire week during Thanksgiving. Back in my day, when I went to school, you got Thursday and Friday off. You went to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But now these schools are gracious, and they're kindly giving all the kids the entire week off. They have more time to work on their 6-7, which is the worst phrase. I can't handle this. So I'm just glad they're back, hopefully learning new things. So.
I did not expect Marty to break out 6-7 this early into the show, but hey, let's rock and roll.
And by the way, when people do it, when the kids do it, they do it with a whine. 6-7. It's terrible. I'm sorry. I've got to stop. I hate it. It makes me crazy. Anyways. All right. You mentioned the Padres giving us a lot of news early on. You were there, right? It's been such a whirlwind. You were at the Craig Stammen press conference, right? So that wasn't too surprising what happened. But and I know I've touched on this earlier with Kyle Glazer of Friar Territory, which I'll get to shortly. But how shocked were you by the Mike Shildt news, and then how quickly Mike Shildt unretired to take a job in player development for the Orioles?
I don't know if you feel the same way I feel. I was shocked 0%. Wasn't surprising to me whatsoever. I think I saw this one coming from a million miles away. Yeah. We've seen this pattern before. When that came across my phone, I went, yep, that makes sense. I kind of totally expected something like that, considering how it all went down, considering the way it kind of leaked out, and then what we found out about the whole situation. Not shocking whatsoever that Mike Shildt is now in Baltimore and in the front office. And look, wishing Mike the best of luck out there. Hopefully he enjoys his time in Baltimore. Hopefully it's less stressful. Yep. And he's in a role where some of the pressure is taken off of him. But no, wasn't surprised whatsoever.
Yeah, he has no more press conferences, so he can't yell at you or me or Kevin Acee or AJ Caswell, Dennis Lynn when we ask him questions, lineup questions, or is Tatis struggling when he's hitting $150 for an entire month with 0 home runs. So good on him. He worked well with players. Hopefully he finds success and happiness, because we know it's not easy to work in that sport, which requires 24/7 from people. It's not really easy these days to work anywhere. Life is stressful. So hopefully Mike Shildt is happy and healthy and has a successful career and whatever he chooses to do. You're Mr. Optimistic. I love that about you. That's really who you are. It's not contrived. It's not an act. Is the Craig Stammen hire growing on you as more time passes? Or is it still we'll see?
Yeah, I don't know if the word growing is the right word. I think I'm more understanding of the hire as time moves on. And I think even after he was hired, when I started doing a bunch of live shots and we were down there talking about it, the more I kind of talked out loud about his credentials and the reason they made the hire, it kind of started to make more sense right then and there. I go, okay, I understand why this move was made.
Yeah.
And then you started to see stuff about the possible sale of the San Diego Padres. And you go, oh, that even makes more sense, because now you had to have a guy who knew that this was coming, right? You weren't going to hire a manager and then be like, oh, by the way, this team is for sale all of a sudden. So
wait, stop right there. Stop right there. Do you think Craig Stammen, do you think Stammen knew? Do you think AJ Preller knew when he made that decision that this was going to happen? Because I don't know. I was shocked. I mean, I expected the team to eventually be sold, that was going to be the outcome of the lawsuit. I was shocked at the timing. I thought maybe next year we'd get there, but this came out like boom, 3 days later after the Stammen presser.
I could be absolutely dead wrong. AJ and Craig could see this and go, yeah, we had no clue. But in my opinion, I think not a lot of, but part of the reason the move was made to hire Craig was because they wanted somebody that knew what was going to come. Some of the shock of that and the ability to be able to handle it with his players, handle it with the front office, handle it with the general manager. So I do think there was at least an inkling and some understanding that this may be coming when you hire Craig. But beyond that, I do think you hired a guy whose credentials do make sense, but there's the big missing credential, the lack of experience, of course. And so I can't say he's growing on me until I see him manage baseball games. And then I'll have a better idea of how much he's growing on me. But I do understand the hire. I think that's the best way I could put it.
Okay, I want to play just a real quick clip. Try saying that 5 times fast, of my interaction with Padres CEO Eric Grupner shortly after that presser. Here we go.
Yeah, as I said recently, that's a conversation that's happening between John and AJ this offseason, and I think we continue to remain confident that AJ is going to be our president of baseball operations past 2026, and excited to continue to build on the success that we've had here together.
Last thing, Eric, you have some key guys who are up for free agency right now who could walk away. How aggressive can the Padres be in their spending this offseason?
Yeah, so, we'll go through the process as we do every offseason. We're in the middle of it right now of determining our budget for next year, which informs where we can go on payroll. And our goal and outlook and perspective remains the same as it has been really for the last 5 years, which is every last dollar we have that we can put into payroll, we're going to do that. And we think we can be, at a similar level to where we've been in the top 10. And that allows us to be competitive, ultimately to win a championship, which is our ultimate goal.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so that was Padres CEO Eric Grupner. I'm sorry, the first part of the question got cut off. I asked him about AJ Preller's future. He said, we remain confident he will be here past 2026. Before that presser came out, and shortly even thereafter, everyone who covers the Padres, like the beat writers, the ACs, the Lins, the AJ Cassavell, all said that an extension could be imminent. We are almost a month later, and there's been nothing, zero coming out. Let's start with that part first. How confident are you, given the uncertainty, that an extension is imminent? Or do you think as more time goes on, less confidence, maybe the Padres are content and AJ Preller to let him go ahead and play it out? And maybe if you're AJ Preller and new ownerships are coming, maybe it's time to go ahead and just do something different or for a different team.
Yeah, I was incredibly confident that he was going to get that extension right around the same time that everyone was saying he was going to get that extension. But there is the uncertainty and the fact that it hasn't happened definitely has my spidey senses up a little bit. I still have this feeling. I still have this feeling that he's going to get that extension. I really do, deep down in my heart. But there's no doubt that it's alarming that it hasn't happened yet after all this time, after everyone's saying, yes, it was imminent. It's right here. He's going to be extended in no time, and we still haven't seen it. I definitely think that's a little bit of cause to be like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? But
yeah,
if I had to answer it yes or no, yes, I think AJ Preller will be extended, but I do think there is a little bit of concern that it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, and then the second part of the question was about the Padres payroll and how much they can spend this offseason. Again, this was early November. So he said that they were going to sit down, they would talk about it. We know last year Padres fans were already just were worried because they weren't doing. It was a quiet offseason for AJ Preller, which is not his persona. Of course, Nick Pivetta, which was a brilliant signing. He was fantastic for the Padres. He's their ace. He's their number one guy. And then they got Gavin Sheets a little bit later. I just wonder how much quieter this offseason is going to be, given the uncertainty, given the sell. And by the way, when he says they're going to spend money, you have to understand that there are certain guys whose contracts are going to skyrocket this season and thereafter. So it isn't like the Padres are going to spend money. They have guys currently under contract whose annual it's going to go through the roof.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they try and navigate this offseason with their money. I know that Eric and we've heard multiple people when John put out the letter about the sale, he said, look, we're going forward as business as usual.
Yeah.
You know, everything on the field is going to be the same. So they've continued to preach that. But to your point, there's a lot of tricky things to navigate with the contracts they already have, obviously. I think you'll see a lot of AJ try and do what he did last year. And remember, I think you and I were on this show at the beginning of last year talking about some of the signings, the Martin Maldonado, some of the guys that didn't work out. But I remember us saying, look, you got to kind of sign like 4 or 5 of those guys and hope 2 of them hit, right?
Right.
And like Gavin hit, and a couple of the 5 weird signings did hit, and I think you'll see more of that in this offseason where there'll be a bunch of names where we go, oh, I don't know about that, and maybe 1 or 2 of them clicks. That being said, too, you've heard the rumors already about Jake Cronenworth possibly being moved and then needing to make some room financially. So I think they're going to have to go about it the same way they did last year. Where like he's going to have to tiptoe around some of this stuff and the famous work on the margins with some of this stuff. I don't think they'll be signing some huge splash move by any means. And I definitely think there'll be some movement of contracts for sure.
Okay. I'm sorry. I got distracted by this Luis Arraez picture. Are you saying, Jake, that the Padres fans should brace themselves for more signings similar to Yuli Gurriel, Jason Hayward, that sort of thing, Connor Joe, that's what the Padres fans should buckle up for and hope that one of those guys are going to go ahead and hit?
I don't really see how that's not the answer. I mean,
could they bring back, by the way, and I know fans won't like this, do you think that Luis Arraez who could come back at a much lower rate than he's expecting? Because there's so much discussion about how much value a player like that has. Doesn't have much slug, doesn't have any slug, and just subpar at first base.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and the Padres might be sitting there waiting with open arms once he goes out into that market and goes, I'm not kind of getting what I thought I could. The Padres go, well, hey, we're right here with this nice discounted deal if you want to come on back. So I think if Luis comes back, there's a couple things. One, it has to be a ripping deal for the San Diego Padres.
Okay.
And I think they would pay that ripping deal. 2, they cannot be so stubborn, and this will obviously be part of it because Mike is gone, to keep him in that 2 spot over and over and over and over, right? You got to be willing to move Luis around that lineup, down lower in the lineup if they do that. So I think if those 2 things work out, then him coming back is not as negative as everyone thinks, but it's got to be a great deal, and they've got to be willing to move him down that lineup.
I would think that right now, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about what the Padres can go ahead and do in free agency. And I believe this during the regular season. I actually believe it right now. I still think the single most important thing the Padres have to do, that this coaching staff has to do with the roster they do have, and they do have plenty of talent on this team. They do.
Yes.
Now you can say, do they match up with the Dodgers? And there's much bigger concerns in the pitching. The offense, I'm not as worried about, because again, if they can somehow get the version of Fernando Tatis Jr. that we were all expecting, especially after just a fantastic April when we were talking MVP discussion, I think that fixes so many things, with their offense. You look at that outfield. That outfield is set. That's the least of their concerns right now, is when you have Ramon Laureano coming back healthy. You have Jackson Merrill. Hopefully he doesn't have the concussion, the hamstring, all the things that plagued him last season. That's a guy I believe in. And then if you can get the right version of Tatis, man, that changes everything. You can talk about Manny Machado getting older, and he's going to. I mean, he is now. We're entering a phase now where we're talking about past his prime, but still a great player. If they can get the version of Tatis back, I think that fixes so many things on this offense. Of course, for the new head coach.
100%. I mean, it's incredibly important for the Padres' success, and they knew that when they signed these big deals, Marty. They knew that they were going to have to rely on these guys to be the cog that turns the whole machine, right? And when those guys aren't on, obviously it's like a house of cards. But when those guys are on, it's a well-oiled machine. So they knew that when they gave out these deals. They've stuck with that structure. It has worked at times. We've seen them have great runs. It has fallen apart at times. We've seen them completely collapse. That is just kind of nature of the beast when you sign these contracts to these players like they have.
Mm-hmm.
If next year Fernando is of that MVP caliber, this is a very, very good baseball team, most likely, depending on what they do with some other pieces. But yeah, they have the horses in the barn, if you will. They've got a bunch of ballers still, but you got to get those guys to come out and post and play well. And again, I think they knew that when they gave out these deals, that it relies on those guys that have those big long-term deals to play well.
Did you catch Buster? Did you catch Craig Stammen on with Buster Olney a couple weeks ago? Did you hear that clip where he talked about needing to get they want to get more out of Tatis. They can to push him to be that MVP guy, and you don't want to take certain days off. I mean, I don't know we'll ever know this answer. Maybe Fernando will be clear about this later on. But I you know how we talk to Mike Shildt privately, publicly, press conference settings, and if you were critical of a player, I mean, he would blow up and he would lose his mind. I am curious as to how candid he was with certain players, superstar players like a Fernando Tatis saying, we need more from you. You're better than this. What's going on with you? I do wonder, because I do know there are people in that front office that were frustrated with Fernando and really expected more and didn't know what's going on and thought maybe there's some things that were distracting him. So I do wonder now if Craig Stammen saying that was like, whoa, Mike Shildt would burst into flames before he would ever criticize anybody, starting with Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah, I would say Mike was probably not candid whatsoever if a player was going through something. One thing Mike was always going to be was a player's manager. He made that very, very clear. Some of the reports that came out after his abrupt retirement were that, he was going to be on the player side of things and let other people deal with the hard part of it. So I think one thing you'll know the answer is that it probably wasn't the full truth when you asked Mike about certain things like that. And yes, to hear Craig kind of come out and pretty much call out Fernando, or at least call out in the best way he could as a manager situation, was refreshing. And maybe we'll get more answers on that. I think Fernando was clearly going through something off the diamond. And I'm not going to sit here and guess what, why, how, or when, because that's not my place. But I think anyone that's covered Fernando for the amount of time we have, you have seen multiple versions of him. You knew that last year's version was not his full focused self. And I think that's probably the nicest way to put it.
Okay, last thing before I move on to just a real quick thing on San Diego sports in general. I know you posted outside of Petco Park when Stammen was introduced. What's been the reaction that you've gotten from Padres fans since then?
I feel like people are cautiously optimistic, within the Padre realm. I think the fans are cautiously optimistic that it could be a great hire, but need to see how he's going to go about it. Obviously, the Padres are getting blasted from the outside from other fan bases. A certain one in particular I probably don't need to bring up, but the reaction isn't going to matter as much as the execution for Craig. My personal concern was a little bit, that AJ had talked about stability at the managerial position. I saw Craig come in with a family of 4 kids and talk about how much of a family man he is. I sure hope the job isn't too taxing and that stability can be there and he can find that balance, because you do look at the amount of hires the Padres have had. Stability is obviously incredibly important. But the reaction has been within Padre land cautiously optimistic, I think. And then outside, obviously, some people go, who? And the other people go, oh my gosh, what a puppet hire. That's the one I hear a bunch. But I don't think that's a fair statement. I think if you're going to talk about a puppet hire, the right wording for that is you found somebody that is aligned with the organization's goals and somebody that's going to help this organization see those goals. So that's kind of how I've seen the outside and a little bit of my personal reaction with the hiring of Craig Stammen. Someone
that knows the organization inside out, the coaching staff, the front office, the scouts. I mean, he knows them. So that's a good thing. So we'll see what happens. All right, listen, Jake, I don't think you were not at the Western Conference Finals for MLS. Any final thoughts on what was a spectacular first season for SDFC?
Yeah, we had our other great reporter, Karthik Venkatraman, down there for that one. And him and I were ready to go to Miami, man. Had our credentials ready.
Oh, really?
Booked. Yeah, we were headed out there. But what a year. What an unbelievable job that Tyler Heaps, the sporting director, did, that Mike Ivaras, the head coach, did, that this roster did. I mean, it's incredible to think back a little while. These guys were introducing themselves to each other, and then all of a sudden they're playing in a Western Conference, final. All of it was just unbelievably impressive. And the thing I think I was most stunned by was that they came out and they said that this club is going to be for all of the communities of San Diego, across the border, here, there, everywhere. And they lived up to that. They really did. They touched all parts of the county. They brought in this awesome fan base. In my opinion, and I understand what Chicago did back in the day, but it's the greatest expansion season of all time, in my opinion, when you consider how difficult it is, how many teams, how high the talent is in MLS now. It was the best expansion season of all time, in my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And they also created a culture. I mean, there was a very passionate soccer fan base even before they got here, which is why they knew that it was going to succeed. But the important thing is you're growing something as well. Like I took my nephew, I took August to, whatever games I could. He loves it. He's dying to sit in the supporters group. You're creating a culture. Other kids in my family, they love going. When people go, they have so much fun. There's an energy about soccer, about the experience, right? And the singing and the scarves that I can't explain to someone who's never gone, but that's important to create that culture. You have an entire generation of kids who are growing up with no NFL football, and they're going to be fine because they grew up with a fun version of the Padres they expect to win. Whether they get to the World Series or not, they're growing up with that, and they're growing up now with SDFC. So it was just year one, but man, what an impact they made. It's going to be fun going forward.
It's going to be really fun. Now the key is sustainability, right? I mean, year one was a blast. Got to find a way to sustain it in a league where it's very, very hard to sustain success, rather. So we'll see.
It's crazy. The turnover, the turnover and the transfers and the loans, like that's something I can't quite process. That's difficult for me to understand. So don't cling to your players too closely like you do with baseball, because they may not be here too long.
There's a lot going on. Marty, I got one question for you.
Yes.
Joe Lacob. How does he sound as the next owner of the San Diego Padres?
Okay.
Do you like Joe Lacob?
How many billions does he have? He doesn't need to go
I
ahead
think he's
and
worth
pay
two. I
an
think he's worth
installment
$2
plan.
billion.
Okay, $2 billion. So you have Joe Lacob as your majority owner. I'm good with it. Let's go. Maybe Theo Epstein can put together a group and he can come by the Padres and figure something out. We'll see what's going to happen. By the way, speaking of Padres, I do see that Josh Burns has just landed. He was a former Padres GM. He has just landed now with the Colorado Rockies. It looks like playing under Paul DePodesta, former Dodgers and A's executive. So we'll see.
Look out now. The Colorado Rockies are hot, baby. Yeah, I'm fully on the Joe Lacob train. Let's get it done. And let's he's shown interest in buying major league teams. And you got maybe one of the best for sale that's been around. So
I cannot believe we're going through this again. I am so discouraged by this. It just sucks. I mean, you're mentioning Lacob. I remember emailing Mark Cuban when he was the owner of the Mavs. He's like, I'm not trying to buy the team, because there was rumors that he was interested in buying the Padres, and you'd want a guy like that too, right? You want somebody passionate, but I just cannot believe this fan base has to go through it again after finding the right ownership. And you found a guy that gets San Diego and really wanted to win. You can get mad about Xander Bogaerts and Tatis and Machado and Yu Darvish, all these deals, but understand why those deals were made. There was someone who was desperate to win, who saw firsthand what happened to this fan base, to the culture of sports in San Diego when Dean Spanos ripped the Chargers out of the city. He got it. Peter Seiler was here at the right time, man, and it forever changed. It changed the outlook of the Padres. It really did. It created an expectation that we've never had in this city for baseball. So it just bums me out that they're going through it again. I hope Major League Baseball does the right thing by the Padres fans, and they don't let someone like Jeff Morad buy the team when he didn't have the money to do it, and he guts the team the way he did and traded the stars. What am I talking about? It stinks. I hope the Padres fans, I hope they get the right type of owner. The uncertainty right now, it stinks, but at least for now, they still have stars. They still have hope. They're going to be competitive, sign a pitcher. It's never going to happen. It's a pipe dream. Go get Michael King. I love that guy. It bums me out. You don't let pitchers like that get to free agency. But I think the fact they never even had one conversation with him, zero conversations with him about an extension during all of last season, tells me a lot about where the direction of the payroll. I'm done.
I loved it. I should clap for that rant. There's not a thing in it that I don't agree with. There's not a thing in it that I wouldn't support. It's all. The uncertainty definitely stinks. It's scary. I do feel good, and I know Mr. Positive here, but no, I do feel good about the next person that's going to come in. I think it's going to be somebody that genuinely wants to win, or at least I sure hope so. The Michael King thing, I don't feel as good about. I'll be honest there. I think he's as good as gone, and I love Michael as well, so.
But can I tell you one thing? Why this might be easier. Number one, you're getting a jewel of a ballpark and of a fan base. And if you're talking to prospective owners, you could show them footage from any single game from last year and say, "Listen, this is what you're inheriting. You're inheriting a passionate fan base that's selling out on a Tuesday night. They had one of the highest attendances in baseball. They had the second highest attendance, right behind the Dodgers. This is the team that drew more than the New York freaking Yankees, right? With that market. So, and you have stars and you have jerseys, players' jerseys that fans want to buy. So I hope they get the right guy, and I hope it doesn't drag out too long. Let's go.
Most of all, you're buying a product that works. Any good business person likes that, right? You're buying a product that works, a product that can only grow if you invest in it. So yes, let's get the right person. Let's do it. Marty's positive about it. I can tell.
That's unique. I'm positive. Jake, you're the absolute best. It's great seeing you again. Hopefully you have a peaceful week. The MLB winter meetings are next. They start pretty much Sunday in Orlando. I'm not sure. I expect the Padres to be very active. I'm sure that AJ Preller will field 1,000 questions about an extension. And hey, he's going to say the same thing that you just heard in the open. I love the city of San Diego. I love the Padres. I'm connected to the players. So we'll see and then nothing's going to happen. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope that there's resolution one way or the other. Perhaps you're just content to go ahead and play this thing out, but we'll see what happens. And go find some pitching, Padres. Let's go.
I ditto all of it. Marty, have wonderful holidays. Always great to see you, my friend, and much love. Keep doing your thing. Keep rocking.
You too. And next time you need to wear that vest. You need to wear your concert vest. I promise the people. Wait, you have it? Does Jake? If you don't follow Jake Garegnani on Instagram, you should. This guy loves to go to concerts. He brings bits and pieces. Hang on one second. By the way, Jake Garegnani is Gareg. Oh my goodness. Nani. Look at that thing. Wow. When's your next hit for CBS?
Tonight. I mean, I'll be on at 5, 6, 10, and 11 I'll be anchoring Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then a concert Saturday.
Oh my gosh, you need to wear that thing. Hey, one thing I want to mention to all of you watching, thank you so much for your time. I am now also joining Kyle Glazer on Friar Territory as a host. We usually do shows 2 times during the week, during the off season, more during the regular season. So in addition to my content here on Marty Time TV, I would highly encourage you to follow Friar Territory and subscribe to that show. You'll find us there. And you can also follow Jake Garegnani. Jake, do you prefer most of your work, your digital work, on the Twitter? Is Thread still a thing? Blue Sky or Instagram? You're great on IG, by the way. A lot of great stuff there.
You're too kind. I post it on all of them, so you can find me anywhere. All 7 of my followers, I appreciate you out there. Thank you for the 7 of you. And Marty, a huge congratulations on the stuff with Kyle. Nobody works harder in the industry. You deserve it big time. So I'm very happy for you.
I appreciate it. Jake, have a wonderful day. I'm Marty Caswell, Jake Garegnani. We're brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. Don't forget to tell your kids to stop with the 6-7. Nobody wants to hear it, and also it makes 0 sense. Have a great day.